Okay, in this video, we'll talk about how to do computation when we're working in other bases. So I'll start with this problem where I have 66100 base 7 plus 5445 base 7. So we'll start by adding 0 plus 5 is 5. That's easy enough. And 0 and 4 makes 4. And those are both good base 7 numbers because remember when we're working with base 7 that you can only have digits from 0 through 6. And then we have 1 plus 4, which is 5, still within our range, so we're good. Then we get to 6 plus 5. So what I do is I go off to the side and I say 6 plus 5 is 11. Well, we're working in base 7, so 11 is no good. I am making a little base 7 chart. That's all I need is just 2 places ever when we're working with this because we're only going to be adding 2 numbers together. We're not going to be doing those big stacks of numbers. You probably remember from when you were a little kid in school and they would give you like 7 different numbers to add up together. So we're not doing that. So 6 and 5 makes 11, but that is in base 10. So now we want to convert that to base 7. So you say 7 goes into 11 one whole time. So we'll put one group of 7s down, and what's left over is 4. So that's 4 ones. So that means we have 4 in the ones place and one group of 7. So I bring down the 4, that's under the 6 and the 5, and I carry that one group of 7 over one place value. Because the next place value, it's not the 7's place, but it's 7 times as much as the previous place value. So that's how that works. So we have 6 plus 1 is 7. Let me do that over here. 6 plus 1 is 7. No good. We can only do 0 through 6. So again, I'm going to say, what is this in base 7? Well, that's one group of 7 and nothing left over. So underneath the 6 and the 1, I put a 0 and then 1 in the next place value. And my final answer is 104545. And that's what you get there. Now let's take, and let me just do this. That's base 7. So let's take a look at a subtraction problem. And I'm just going to use the same numbers. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do this. We didn't talk about base 16, so let me do a problem with base 16. Now base 16, we count 0, 1, 2, tra-la-la, down to 9. And then, just like in base 12, our digit for 10 is A, and then 11 is B, 12 is C, and we keep going till we get to 15 because we're working in base 16, which goes from 0 to 15, but we need that to be one digit, so it's 0 through F. All right, so now suppose we have B0 4 1 minus 4 7 D A. And this is base 16 and base 16. So I'm just going to write those as numbers just to be quick. All right, so I start with the first place value, the ones place, just as you normally would. And I have 1 minus A. And I can't do that because that's a 1 minus a 10 really. And when you can't subtract a larger from a smaller. So you do what you would do in regular base 10. You're going to borrow from the next place value. And you're going to reduce that place value by 1. So I went from 4 to 3. But what is it that I'm borrowing? When I'm working in base 16, then I'm borrowing 16. If I were working in base 7, I'd be borrowing 7. And if I were working in base 12, I'd be borrowing 12. So it's whatever your base is that you're borrowing. I already had 1 plus the 16 that I just borrowed over from the other place value gives me 17 total. So now I'm taking 17 minus A, and A is 10. So you really want to have this little chart you can make for yourself off to the side, because it's easy to forget about the 10 and you just think A is 11, B is 12, and so on, and you skip the 10. So I would strongly recommend that you write that out, because I mess up every time I don't do that. So 17 minus A, 17 minus 10, so that's 7, and that's base 16. I'll just put that in now. And I go to my next place value. Now I have 3 minus D, still no good. D is 13, and sometimes I'll just put a little 13 underneath there just to help me remember what that is. And I can't do 3 minus 13, so I go to the next place value, but that's a 0. So I'm going to have to go another place value over. And 1 less than B is A, or you can make that a 10 if you like that better. And so I'm borrowing 16 over to the next place value. So I go ahead and just write it in. We're not working in base 10. It's a little bit harder, so I'm going to write out everything. But I need to be working in the next place value over. So now I'm going to say, well, I can take 1 away from 16. Now I have something to take away from. So I make that a 15. And the 3, now we take the 3 plus the 16 we borrowed, and we get 19. So that 3 becomes a 19. So you went through a lot of changes there. So it was 4, we made it 3, now we made it 19. So we'll do 19 minus 13 is 6, and that's fine. So when you're subtracting, you don't have to worry about what digits you get. They're going to be fine digits to work with. And then we move over to the next place, and we have 15 minus 7. Well, that works already, so that's 8. And then A minus 4, but A is 10, so that's 10 minus 4 is 6. So I have 6, 8, 6, 7 in base 16 is my final answer.